Incredible. Well, our next presenters, we all know, need no introduction, but I was told to do one anyway. Next up, we have President Emeritus and the former First Lady, Jud and Jan Carlberg.
Wow, what an evening. This has been great. When Barry and Donna joined our community in 1985, I immediately liked them. They were a cross-cultural couple. He from rural North Carolina, she from Canada. I like people from central North Carolina. After all, I married one. And Donna reminded me of my Canadian aunt. Quiet, competent, loving, gentle, and just plain interesting. Over the years, my initial impressions were not only reinforced, they were stretched in wonderful ways and in positive directions. I'd like to tell you why I am so thankful for Barry Loy, my friend and colleague for almost 3 decades. Then Jan will share insights into Donna and what she has meant to hundreds at Gordon. Every campus needs a dean of students like Barry. When I became president, this building that we're in tonight was under construction. The steel superstructure was in place, a fence circled the construction site, and signs were posted everywhere, "Keep out." One night that fall, 2 Gordon guys decided the campus needed a little cheering up. So they hopped over the construction fence, climbed up the ladders to the top of the steeple, stood precariously on a girder, and broke forth singing a horribly sounding duet at the top of their lungs. Now, I don't know about all the details that happened after that, but I do know that it involved public safety, Dean of Students Barry Loy, and a very redemptive spirit. And the story also featured the new president's son and one of his buddies. And when I found out about this adventure on the steeple, I remembered thinking, oh no, he inherited that gene too. But that's another story for another time. Barry is not only redemptive, he's also compassionate. Barry loves God and sees students through his eyes. God gifted Barry with an understanding heart and a firm but gentle spirit. He has the ability to embrace the troubled with grace when others are prone to punish. In fact, if Barry suspended a student from campus for a week for some major infraction, that would not be the end of it. If the student's home were far away, Barry would arrange for a place for him to live while serving out the suspension. Or he would make a breakfast appointment with the offender to offer encouragement and counsel. I'm also thankful for Barry's careful attention to the shifting changes in student life and culture. While student culture is beyond comprehension to some, Barry offers interpretation and nuance. Over the years, Barry not only was respected as a dean here at Gordon, but he also became a revered leader across Christian higher education in the world of student development. He held a number of national offices and was a consultant on student life for many other Christian college university campuses. On our campus, when I couldn't understand a student's behavior or a group's stance on a controversial issue, I'd call Barry. I loved his reassuring voice and calming personality on the other end of the line. By the time he was finished responding to my concerns, I was convinced that the trustees would let me keep my job at least until the next board meeting, or that cranky donor would not actually pull his gift over such a silly student infraction. On the president's cabinet, Barry was the Garrison Keillor of Gordon College. His droll humor enlivened our conversations and provided perspective at crucial moments. But Barry also was a godsend for me personally. You see, most of the time during Dick Brost's presidency, I was the cabinet secretary. I took notes very carefully during the meeting, and then I would return to my office in the evening to write a 3 to 5 page, boringly detailed account of what had happened. On the first day that Barry joined the cabinet, I thought to myself, I have a new guy for this job. At least I'll get some relief. So I went to Dick Brost and asked him once again if I did have to continue being the secretary. And he said, well, no, let's let Barry have a chance. Let's give the young man a chance. His minutes were laced with humor and pathos, which will bring smiles to the next historian who writes an updated Gordon College history and goes through all those minutes that Barry wrote. Barry did not hold this forced assignment against me. Instead, he went out and he bought a sailboat. With his typical grace, he invited me to sail with him down the Essex River and out into Ipswich Bay. During those sunset sails, my friendship with Barry grew even stronger. And so now watching Barry and Donna sail off into the North Carolina sunset is not easy. But I remain hopeful that they'll return often to enjoy a ride in my boat on Gloucester Harbor. After all, the creek behind the Lloyd homestead is just not made for sailing.
What's not to love about Donna and Barry Loy? We connect on so many different ways, but just a couple of specific things. Canada. My mother and that grandmother that you've heard so much about over the years, they lived in Canada, and some of the best stories came from Canada. And then secondly, on my part, my family moved from Georgia one part to North Carolina, and I spent a number of years in Greensboro, North Carolina, in the Piedmont, which isn't all that far from where Barry and Donna will be going. Now, there was a distinction, though. While Barry's family, they were potters, only connection there is I had a brother who for a period of time was a pothead, which explains partially why most of my family stories came from my Norwegian grandmother. I could talk about both of them, but I'm choosing as a Carolinian to speak about the Canadian, Donna. Donna has a serving heart. Her unassuming ways remind me of what good neighbors Canadians have been, unless they're playing the Bruins. But Donna is not into sports nearly as much as she's into people. Whether from her perch at the library, the desk outside, the admissions office, or in more secluded places, Donna has loved and served students and others in this community with a kindness and a very practical helping hand, mending clothes, hemming pants, listening, giving wise counsel. She's a super mom at heart. Donna notices. Donna loves nature. It's always a lesson in botany or geology or marine biology or ornithology to stop by her desk. You can count on finding rocks or shells or other reminders that God created a very fascinating world, and Donna is never too busy to take notice. Donna applauds God's handiwork with her camera. Her photographic cards record some of God's beauty in this region. Those walks where she gets her soul restored and that heightened awareness of God's creation give her a serenity and a calm that those of us around her draw on. There's something when you're near a person at peace. Donna's redemptive. Donna and Barry have a long view of folks. They live like people who believe that the end of the story has yet to be written. They'll do their part and then trust God with the rest. Many a student has become far more than they ever thought they could become because of that touch of grace, that forgiveness, that infusion of hope that came through these two seasoned ones. Donna's a prayer. Some of my most cherished times during my years at Gordon came from a relationship with a small group of women who gathered with me to pray monthly for this place that we love. We called it the Women's Prayer Group. I should have given that title over to Mark Stevick. He could have come up with something really great. But we gathered and we prayed for every student, every faculty member, every trustee, every administrator by name. Over the course of the year, everyone was prayed for many times. During those times, we also had something else that took place. Someone came up with an idea, well, why don't we knit prayer shawls for people? Now that sounds like something really old people do. Well, I was younger then, but I thought it was a great idea because someone brought it and said these prayer shawls that could be knit, we could give them to people when we learned that someone was ill, and then we could attach a card with it, and we could tell them that when they put this around them or wrap up in a chair or in a bed where they're stuck for a while getting better, that let it remind them that we're blanketing them with our prayers as well. I'm not going to ask how many received these out of the Gordon community, but I know in our own family, my sister-in-law Beth, when she was going through cancer, received one. I know that my mama, when she was sick, received one. I know that Jud received one. Somebody did a whole lot of knitting. I'll tell you, they tried to teach me, and I got about as far as a mug mat. So I'm not responsible for them. But Donna, I don't know how many you knit. But whenever I would be concerned and say, well, I didn't want somebody else getting sick for a variety of reasons. But I thought, well, we're out. This is the bottom of the barrel. There are no more prayer shawls there. And sure enough, Donna would show up, and there'd be another one. I'd say, Donna, how'd you do it? She says, oh, I knit while I talk to my mama and listen to her on the phone. So many people receive that blanket of love and of prayer. After Judy Kent retired, Donna assisted me for several years, sending out those email reminders to others to let us know what you wanted us to pray for. She saw this for the important work that it was, the hard work of praying and knitting and delivering cards and shawls to people who needed a dose of comfort and hope. Donna blesses. So as Donna and Barry moved to North Carolina, I take comfort. They head back to a place with which I'm familiar, a land of pulled pork and sweet tea, a place where most Sundays church parking lots are full. It's also a region where most folks can sing more than one verse of Amazing Grace by heart. But the unsung kind of grace is not as prevalent as it has grown to be at Gordon College. I can't imagine two better teachers of grace than Barry and Donna, a Carolinian and a Canadian. That in itself is a pretty powerful teacher. Two of God's really good folks heading south to love and tend an aging daddy. They're not boasting about plans to sit on boards or write a few bestsellers or become one more consultant on the circuit. Mostly I've heard they plan to head south to love and tend Barry's dad, maybe do a little research on those potters. And Donna can hardly wait. What's not to love about these two people?